Hi everyone, my name is Sacha Altay, and today I'm going to present our paper with Anne-Sophie Aquin and Hugo Mercier. Why do so few people share fake news? It hurts their reputation. Fake news are created to be very appealing to the human mind. Among other things, they are more interesting, more surprising, and more likely to elicit disgust compared to true news that has been fact-checked. Fake news also tend to be about celebrities, threats, sex, disgust, and more broadly, social information. For instance, this was the most shared fake news on Facebook in France in 2017. Woman develops IQ of 220 after drinking sperm every day for a year. And these were the most popular fake news on Facebook in the US in 2018. Again, they were mostly about social information, sex, and these kind of things. However, despite their psychological attractiveness, numerous articles have shown that the average internet user consumes very few unreliable news and rarely share any. Unreliable news include not only fake news but also deceptive, low quality or hyper-partisan news. So I will detail the results of 4 studies on misinformation consumption to give you some background on our study. So Jennifer Allen and colleagues found that in the US, misinformation represents 1% of the news consumption and 0.15% of Americans' daily media diet. Laurent Cordonnier and colleagues found that in France, misinformation represents 5% of the news consumption and 0.16% of people's connected time. These two results cannot be compared since they didn't use the same methodology. During the final weeks of the 2016 US election, 56% of Americans consume no news from untrustworthy websites at all. And 1% of individuals accounted for 80% of misinformation consumption on Twitter during the 2016 US presidential election. I will now detail 3 studies on misinformation sharing and then go on with my study. During the 2016 US election, 80% of Twitter users shared no news from unreliable websites, and 0.1% of users accounted for nearly 80% of the misinformation that was shared on the platform. During the 2019 EU parliamentary election, less than 4% of the news content shared on Twitter came from unreliable websites. And Onsmuden and colleagues found that 1% of Twitter users are responsible for 75% of the misinformation shared, and that 80% of users shared no misinformation at all in their study. So back to our initial question. If fake news is so appealing to the human mind, why do so few people share fake news? Our main hypothesis was that to benefit from communication, receivers should trust less people sharing fake news. But if the costs of sharing falsehoods were equal to the benefits of sharing truths, we would end up trusting people misleading us half of the time. So we hypothesized that sharing fake news should hurt one's reputation in a way that is hard to fix by sharing true news. We tested this hypothesis in 4 pre-registered experiments among 3,600 participants. We had 4 conditions. Participants were either presented with 3 real news, 3 fake news, 3 real news and 1 fake news, or 3 fake news and 1 real news. So it's a between subject design. So participants are either in this condition, this one, or this one. The news were presented in a Facebook format and either came from an individual such as Charlie or a made-up media outlet such as css.cu.uk. After being presented with the news, participants had to rate how reliable the source who shared the news was. So the y-axis represents how much participants trusted the source who shared the news. We see that for politically neutral news, there is a cost to sharing a fake news in addition to 3 real news. People trust less the source who shared the fake news compared to the source who shared only 3 real news. On the other hand, people don't trust much more a source who shared 1 true news in addition to 3 fake news. You see that the orange slope, representing the reputational costs of sharing 1 fake news, is steeper than the green slope, representing the reputational benefits of sharing a true news. And it is true for both politically congruent news and politically incongruent news. You see here politically congruent news, here politically incongruent news. You see that all the orange slopes are steeper than the green slopes. So as predicted, the reputational costs of sharing fake news are higher than the reputational benefits of sharing true news. We compared the trust ratings of our participants to the trust rating that participants gave to junk media and mainstream media. So we normalized the scores so that they can be compared. And this is from Pennycook and Rand in PNAS in 2018. So we found that the only source with rating similar to mainstream media was the source who shared 3 real news. We see that sharing just 1 fake news is enough to be excluded from the mainstream media category. So it's a very selective category. And we also found that sharing 1 real news is not enough to escape the junk media category, as even the source sharing 3 fake news and 1 real news had similar trust rating to junk media. So we have seen that sharing fake news hurts your reputation, but do these reputational costs explain why so few people share fake news? To answer this question, we asked participants how much they would have to be paid to share fake news. In one condition, participants were told that they would share the news anonymously here, and in the other condition that it would be from their personal social media account. Here is the amount of money that participants requested, from $0 to more than $1,000. We see in red that most of the time, participants did not ask to be paid to share true news, and that the difference between the anonymous and the personal condition is minimal. On the other hand, most participants asked to be paid to share fake news. When participants' reputation was on the line, that is when they shared the news from their personal social media account, half of the time participants asked to be paid to share fake news more than $1,000. And they were only willing to share it for free 20% of the time, compared to 40% of the time when the sharing was anonymous. And we replicated this pattern with another set of fake news. So you see that participants ask for more money when they share fake news than true news, and that they ask for more in the personal social media account condition than in the anonymous condition. A few take-home messages from the study. First, a good reputation is more easily lost than gained. And because receivers are vigilant and keep track of who said what, sharing fake news hurts your reputation, whether you are a human or a media outlet. And the reputational costs of sharing fake news are bigger than the reputational benefits of sharing true news. And people are aware of these reputational costs and refrain from sharing fake news when their reputation is on the line. Thank you for your attention, and you can find the paper by scanning the QR code or on my personal website. If you have questions, don't hesitate to send me an email or a DM on Twitter. Bye.